customer enablement, anything related to data analytics and AI. Welcome to this fireside chat about leveraging intelligent data fabric with IBM Cloud Pak for data and to automate data and AI lifecycle as well. Thanks for joining us. But before we go ahead with this discussion, a few housekeeping rules. This session is being recorded and will be available for viewing post-event. You can post your questions and we'll try to do our best to answer them in the end of the session. To begin with, Tech Mahindra has a very strong relationship with IBM spanning more than 10 plus years, and we are a global service integrator, GSI, and platinum business partner to IBM. And we have partnered with IBM in creating a lot of joint solutions for business critical problems for our customers. A few are NOC managed services and network operation transformation, warranty analytics, real-time investment and trade advisory, virtual agent for customer service management, etc. And we have about more than 3,000 plus practitioners with IBM related skills and technologies. Having said that, now it's my pleasure to welcome Tad Vorozilchak and Sunil Murthy from IBM. Tad is the Vice President for Information Architecture, handling global sales and strategy. And he specializes in defining market positioning, product strategy, and ensuring customer success. And he lives in New Orleans, Louisiana. Sunil, he leads IBM data and AI business strategy as part of the IBM Global Alliances. And Sunil is our trusted go-to person, and he has very deep knowledge in information architecture and analytics domain, especially in data ops, data governance, data science, AI, ML technologies. And he lives in San Francisco Bay Area. I am really honored and excited to have this conversation with our guests. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for the past 2 weeks. I want to give Tad and Sunil an opportunity to say hi to our audience and how they are doing and greet the audience before we start the session. Tad.
Thanks, Senthil. Look, if you've been excited about this for 2 weeks, I know I've been excited about this for 2 weeks. Thank you for having Sunil and I. It's a real pleasure, first of all, to get to jointly go have this chat with our clients, really express some of the things that we're doing together, some of the things that we think are not just clever, but will change the business landscape for the future. I think the topic that we'll discuss today in what we're doing, what IBM are up to with an intelligent data fabric, what that means for our Cloud Pak for data product, and how that will delight our joint customers along with Tech Mahindra is going to be a powerful one. So I won't cut into any more of that time by going into a long-winded introduction, except just to say once again, thank you to the Tech Mahindra team for having us.
Tad and Senthil, delighted to be here as well. Appreciate the partnership. This is a fairly fruitful and a long partnership that we have embarked on. And Senthil, appreciate giving IBM the opportunity to discuss our point of view. I think we are just getting started in this journey. This collaboration that we have over a decade, starting with our power systems and some of our middleware technology, now leading into AI, is one that I think is very relevant to a lot of our large customers. And we all know that quite a few customers are still embarking on this journey at early stages. So looking forward to getting to the journey together. Senthil, could you come off mute? Thanks.
Sorry. So we have about 100 people who have registered for this event. We are expecting a wide range of people joining this conversation, from IT to business, developers, architects, analysts, students. So it's a wide range, right? So it's pretty amazing that we were able to, translate some of the success in the past in-person events to this webinars also. So to make it easy for the audience to follow this session, we just want to split this, discussion into 3 different parts. The first is about what is this whole data fabric about, right, in the industry context. The second is what's new about with IBM Cloud Pak for data. So that is the second conversation we want to have. And the third is to share some of the experiences, success stories, and technology adoption. So that's how I would like to get this conversation going. To start with, what's about data fabric, right? To set the context, 2020 has been a year of unprecedented challenges across industry, right? And a few organizations have taken a step back. They have delayed a lot of creativity and innovation because of the uncertainty of the pandemic. But they were kind of expecting some stability in the market, and with the fears easing because of the vaccination and the progress in economy, now the organization have started showing urgency for innovation. Right, there's been a lot of interest in making most out of the data. They want to be a data-driven, intelligent enterprise. They want to realize value from reusable, unified, and data and AI platforms, and get successful AI throughput as well. I think this is a perfect time to start this, have this conversation on leveraging the data fabric to accomplish all these goals, right? And there's been a lot of interest of late from the organization. So. Sunil, to you, I'll start with you. First, talk to us a little bit about our relationship between Tech Mahindra and IBM alliances. Your experiences so far, and then we'll jump into what this data fabric is all about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I think it's fair to say, the relationship between the two companies is one that is based off market needs and customer needs. We saw several large joint customers of ours, starting with telco and industrial manufacturing domains, where the need for intelligent document processing and adopting some of the natural language processing and unstructured content was a key requirement. So we started the foray way back when. We talk about the notion of the AI ladder, which is a prescriptive approach that we adopt in our approach to the data and AI. And our partnership with Tech Mahindra certainly has enabled delivering this with our customers. So if you step back from a conceptual perspective, from describing the data fabric, generally speaking, customers need the prescriptive approach to infuse AI into their businesses, right? It doesn't happen, overnight or by magic. It requires a very thoughtful, well-architected approach. IBM has discovered several AI projects actually fail because of the lack of data preparedness, the lack of trust in that foundational aspect of AI, which is data, which is information architecture. One of our senior VPs, Rob Thomas, always mentions this. There's no AI without IA, right? So that's very true based off our, I think going up to about now 20,000 plus AI projects around the globe in the past 24 months. And Senthil, you hit upon something which is very true in this industry, right? With the pandemic and the 2020, the innovation has accelerated, right? The next 5 years project is now, brought forward now in the 12-month horizon. Some people say, I want to plan for the next decade now rather than wait. So the prescriptive approach has helped our customers, very well to infuse AI for businesses. And we build upon this, foundational elements of trusting your data, your language aspects, understanding the language, and automate a lot of the workflows and experiences. So what is this AI ladder, the prescriptive approach? So make data simple and accessible. That's your foundation element, right? Collect data of every type, any type, regardless of where it lives, right? That is our fundamental approach We don't advocate necessarily lifting and shifting and disrupting data where it resides. We enable accessibility for data where it resides. So that's your first step. The next is organizing, where you create a business-ready analytics foundation. Organize your data into a trusted business-ready foundation. And more importantly, with built-in data governance, right? That's the protection, the privacy, the compliance. Those things are built into our approach in our data fabric. And then you go up the ladder with analyze, where you scale your AI with trust, with transparency, explainable AI. So you actually benefit from the AI models, and you gain new insights and make better and smarter decisions, right? And the last but certainly very important is where you're ready for infusing AI into the business processes, automating, operationalizing AI throughout the businesses. So this notion of AI for business is fundamental to our differentiation with our data fabric. Anybody can talk about AI. They may be referring to ML. They may be referring to some narrow slice of this broader domain, but IBM's point of view in this space is really predicated on AI for business. Very quickly, again, going to the next slide here, what are we talking about when we talk about intelligent data fabric? Look, as I mentioned, data can reside anywhere. We do not really advocate some of the competitors do, where you have to lift and shift to get value to data. No, there are some very valuable data residing in some of these systems, be it the big data lake with Hadoop, or your mainframe data systems, or your traditional relational databases, or data born in the cloud. We want to go after data where it resides, not move the data and spend a lot of data to realize value. So any data, any cloud, which is a very important aspect, right? IBM invested in Red Hat as part of our joint relationship and venture, where Red Hat is part of IBM business, and we truly have embraced the OpenShift Kubernetes platform as our hybrid cloud platform. So the new data fabric, the intelligent data fabric from IBM, which is Cloud Pak for data, is really leveraging that containerization, that modernized data architecture with OpenShift. It allows that ability for working it on any cloud, right? So we do not necessarily care about the cloud provider itself, but the value of data through the fabric, wherever it resides, anywhere, and delivering that that trust and automation alongside with the foundation. And the next slide actually brings these concepts together in an architecture. Now, our offering here is Cloud Pak for data. Think about Cloud Paks as really that foundational data fabric that you can make it deploy it on any cloud or on-prem, so the true hybrid nature, and it instantiates or delivers that AI ladder that I mentioned, right? The collect, organize, analyze, and infuse. It's very modular, so you can use the services which to get you started in a very modular fashion. And the best part is it's pre-integrated and automates the AI lifecycle. It builds in some of the multi-cloud, inter-cloud management aspects, and it allows object store as well if you do want to move any of your data. And it allows that governance aspect that I mentioned. So the notion of an intelligent data fabric needs to have some foundational capabilities. I'm sure your audience is familiar with data lakes as well as the data warehouses. So the modern architecture, or think about next-gen architecture, almost combines the two, right? Data lakes and data warehouses. Some folks have used the term lake houses to combine this. But look, this is a foundational capability, and there's a lot of new innovations here. In fact, we are just coming off our IBM Think conference, where we made several new announcements. And I would certainly invite Thad to jump in here to talk about some of these new innovations, which I think is going to propel us to this next level of adoption in the market.
Yeah, thanks, Sunil. I think we can, in fact, just leave this slide here for a second. As a rule, I generally don't present with slides, but since we have some of the new capabilities in Cloud Pak for Data, I'll take the audience through just kind of a brief history of where we've been with Cloud Pak for Data, and then build up to where we are today. So Cloud Pak for Data is 3 years in market now. It is a wildly successful product from IBM Data and AI as part of our technology division. I've had the pleasure of being a part of this group and leading sales and strategy for this group throughout the inception of Cloud Pak for Data. We initially started with IBM Cloud Platform for Data on an IBM developed Kubernetes engine. And as Sunil mentioned, through our acquisition and partnership with our colleagues at Red Hat, years ago, we made the substantial move to put our data and AI our data and AI business rather, in the hands of the Kubernetes engine, the Red Hat OpenShift engine. And it's a really smart choice for us. The things that we say around operate on any cloud, private or otherwise, any data, anywhere, is all made possible because we start with that OpenShift platform. So that is a fundamental. And we've really been about the business of, as Sunil said, collecting, organizing, analyzing, and infusing data and AI together in this one platform on top of Red Hat OpenShift. And we have many successful customers. We mentioned healthcare, and as I think through folks like Kimberly-Clark or some of the Blue Cross Blue Shield California, where Sunil is, have invested in Cloud Pak for Data, both on the data side and on the data science side, and everywhere in between in that ladder of AI. And those investments were made even before the pandemic and have continued and accelerated afterwards. But what we find is that there's a common theme, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in an industrial sector, financial, et cetera. There's a common theme that works throughout, and that is, Sunil kind of touched on it, data is everywhere, and that's not a bad thing. But it's also, if you've heard in academia or otherwise, I've heard for years, data is the new oil. And at the same time, I think that's a great analogy. I also think nobody wants a barrel of oil showing up in their home. And you certainly don't want 10 barrels showing up in your home. You wouldn't know what to do with it. And I think regardless of the industry, that's what we're seeing today is there's so much data out there, but it's like these barrels of oil that you just don't know what to do with. We love plastics. We love the goods that are created from petroleum base. We love to fuel our cars and take trips on planes. But at the same time, we don't know exactly, we wouldn't know what to do in the physical world with our raw environment and that raw oil. And I think of that as when I think of Cloud Pak for Data, because what we're really about is we're really about making sense of all that data. We think it's good. We think it's valuable. That's our position number one. We also think you shouldn't have to move it and refine it, right? Just like the oil that would show up in a barrel, there's no sense in the end user having to go through that refinement process. At the end of the day, I've got a rubber watch band here, thanks to petroleum products on my Apple Watch. We've got plastics. All of that come from petroleum-based products, but I have zero interest in anything other than putting this on my wrist and gaining the functionality from it. And that's the same way that we should be thinking about data. So when we talk about one of the features that I'll go into, auto SQL, what that's really about is saying, keep your data where it is. There may be instances, as Sunil said, where for cost reasons or otherwise, you may want to put this into an object store. There are various architectural reasons to do it, various quantifiable reasons to do that. But for the most part, your data exists where it exists for a reason already, whether it's tied to an application, whether it's in a heritage system, whether it's new and bespoke and created and you want it to be stateless and you want to, you want to spin it up, spin it down for dev use cases. And the data shouldn't dictate, just like the oil shouldn't dictate its end use case. And so AutoSQL allows us from the technology standpoint to tap into that data, wherever it is, whatever cloud it's on, whatever form factor it's in, whether it's structured, non-structured, all of that data is relevant and all of that data is available, should be available for refinement. And it should be automatic in the way that it's plumbed, because while in the previous generation of Cloud Pak for data, we were able to say that you could tap into all that data, and we could through virtualization or federation. It wasn't as simple as we're on the journey to making it with AutoSQL. And it should be as simple as recognize all data that's out there, make it available for that refinement, and bring it forward. So that's where I think we will change the, and you will see from IBM that we will absolutely change the paradigm and turn it on its head. There isn't another vendor out there now that can deliver anything close to the AutoSQL capabilities that we're describing. And part of that is because when we make this announcement, we're not announcing a 100% new in next generation of Cloud Pak for data. We're building on 15 plus years of technology development and then adding the new features to that. So we have a leg up. There's often the thought that IBM is old, and I would say, yep, she's an old girl. But the good news about that is there's a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot of experience there and a lot of knowledge that we've gained. And that is most evident in our products. And it's most evident in being able to pull off something like AutoSQL and tap into all of that knowledge and all of that data. Then we get to things like Auto Catalog, which are really about, now that we can get to the oil, now that we can tap into all the oil reserves and we have them in the pipeline, what do you do with them? You got to do a couple things. One, privacy has to be there. Privacy has to be there. So no matter the source that I tap into, wherever it resides, whatever that oil field is, I want to make sure that the product that I'm bringing through is only the product that I'm bringing through and that I intend to. So in the oil analogy, right, I only want to bring through the pure crude. I don't want to bring through anything else. Same with the data, right? There are certain data, PII, whether it's for California regulations. Sunil, I'm just picking on you today, just being a Californian, whether it's retail and California regulations, whether it's HIPAA, whether it's GDPR, there are certain regulations that are going to be universal, and they're not slowing down, they're growing. So if you have to go back and repopulate or redetermine through every set of data that you can now pipe into, what is private, what's anonymized, what's available to your end users, that's time consuming. Just like ETL and federation are time consuming in gathering that data, that's time consuming in making sense of that data and making sure that you don't expose too much. So auto privacy allows me to set policies once and apply it to all of those data sources. That exists now with auto privacy, just like AutoSQL allows us to pull in. And then finally, Auto Catalog is the ability to make that. So great, now I've got data, I've got my oil, it's refined. What do I do with it? How do I make use of it? Someone's going to want to do something with that. And we don't want to, this is where I think things like the global pandemic and in the past, if you think 2008, 2009 timeframe, the global economic crisis, the great, not recession, but the Great Recession rather. The Great Recession had an impact on what people wanted to do. They want to get smarter with the data that they have. Back then it was BI tools applied to large data sets. And now you think, not only do I want to understand answers faster and make sure that they're proper, but I also want to be able to do things like apply AI models, et cetera. So in order to do that, you can't give that data to a limited number of analysts. You need to be able to provide that data to everyone. That could be your data scientists, your business users, your analysts, et cetera. That's what Auto Catalog is all about. Because I know I can provide that oil pipeline that is limitless because data is growing in a limitless fashion. I can provide that with privacy concerns across that entire data estate. and now I can make that available in a catalog fashion for all of my users, I'm starting to get some real power. And the final piece, and I'll touch on this and then stop, is auto AI. That's a capability that has existed. It was our first auto, if you will. It's the grandfather of the autos. It existed in our first generation of Cloud Pak for Data. And this is really about taking that next step. So let's say that I'm a business user, I'm FAD, and I am a business user, guys. I grew up in sales. I've got an IT background, but I wouldn't know how to program in Python any more than I can remember how to program in C++ from college, right? I just don't have a good grasp of it. But I can build an AI model, and I know it because I've built several. I build them all the time, in fact, for use. We use our own cooking, so I use Cloud Pak for Data internally to run some of the analysis that I do of our sales team. And Auto AI allows me to create models as a business user, understanding that there are several models and many models and types of regression tests, et cetera, that are available and that are common. And what Auto AI does is it understands the data that I pull in. I map using the catalog saying, I want to know more about sales forecasting and the impact of, COVID shutdowns in Singapore on my business in Asia Pacific. What do I need to, show me the correlations? And then I put it in, models run itself. It runs multiple models, grades them, selects them, runs tests on sample data, and then gives me a scoring of my output and asks me if I want to put the model in production. That easy. But that's only possible because I have access to all my data. I know that that data is clean. I know that the privacy controls are on, so I can make use of it. It's available in a catalog, so I can pull the data from all of the sources that I want. And now I can use it for AI. That's Cloud Pak for Data. That's the next gen of Cloud Pak for Data. It's all about taking the things that were possible in the previous gen and maybe possible cobbling together multiple solutions, best of breed in the past, but that created a plethora of heavy lifting and work to get accomplished, and making it very simple, packaging it up, making it simple, making it quote unquote auto, and turning that entire life cycle, that entire ladder to AI into a delivered promise from IBM. Sorry, I went a little long-winded there, but hopefully that.
No, Dad, I love it.
Too.
I love it. Data is like next oil. I love it. That's really good to, I'm going to steal it from you anyway.
It's
so,
an old, to be honest. I stole it from probably 5 other people, Senthil, so no need to give me credit.
Good. From what I heard, right, IBM Cloud Pak for Data addresses certain challenges and needs. I'm going to just say top 3, which I gathered from what you said, right? Integrate data from siloed and disparate data sources. That's one of the pain points, which this product can take care of. And second thing, which kind of got my attention, is being agnostic to cloud, right? Multi-cloud. People, most of the organization are in that, crossroads where they have to do multi-cloud strategy. So this can help out in this, multi-data formats, tools. It doesn't matter, right? This particular, IBM Cloud Pak for Data takes care of it. And the third thing is, meeting next-gen modern data platform needs, like data security, data catalog, metadata, governance, data ops, agile development, automated AI. And even getting the consumption also, right? They want reports faster. So Cloud Pak for Data kind of takes care of all these 3 areas. That's good to know. So Sunil, do you have any thoughts about what's new? Do you have anything to share apart from what Thad has given, especially to Cloud Pak for Data? Is there anything you want to share about?
Well, I think we covered most of it. The best proof of the technology that we release is the adoption. What we are seeing is one of the things that Thad touched upon is auto AI. That is actually the building block for model ops, right? So we speak about data ops to build your data, to trust your data. Model ops is to trust your AI, right? to build a trusted AI. So I think you're seeing the building blocks that we are really bringing to the table from a business sense, from an enterprise readiness. So that's some of the things that I just wanted to add. I think we covered most of it. You touched upon something which is also important is the architecture, the containerization, the modern next gen platform that allows the bet that people can make on IBM's data and AI platform to be ready, to be future ready, to be future proof, and to accommodate their variety of needs from infrastructure, be it on-prem or be it any cloud. So those are some of the things that we also refreshed in our announcements.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I would say it's, multi-cloud too, right? Like we say any cloud, but as I think of it, I don't touch a client anymore who has a single cloud. You ask them that question, they think, yeah, we've made a decision to go Amazon or Microsoft or, whatever their cloud choice may be. But that's not, when you peel back the onion a little bit, you find, I think on average, the average Fortune 500 has 7 clouds, and they forget about the Salesforce data that they're capturing, the SAP data that they're capturing, all of these other clouds that they're leveraging as part of their business. Yes, the strategic corpus is one, but tying together all of that data is what's important, because just like tapping into oil, you don't want to tap into half of an oil field and then leave it. That's a wasted oil field. You want to extract every bit of value from that, and that's the same goes with data.
Definitely, if the customers can access the data with no movement necessary, across hybrid multi-cloud environments, that's a real, thing which it brings to the customers. So, we kind of covered part 1 and part 2 about what this data fabric is all about, what's new in data fabric. That the next area is like, Sunil, if you may share the success stories, right? We talked about the platform, what it can do. What do you see on the ground with your customers? Especially with this pandemic, right? For the healthcare frontline workers, or even with the COVID situation. Is there any use cases, any solutions? Your work with the customers on this particular area.
Well, thanks, Senthil. So Watson Assistant business grew multiple fold last year with the pandemic situation. And it's an unfortunate pandemic situation, but resulted in very critical needs, especially from our healthcare providers, be it CVS or the Blues, the payers, as well as the hospital cares, including the city and local governments, right? Remember, go back to February, March last year, where there was so much confusion, there was so much data, who do you trust? Where do you trust? So IBM was provided a challenge by especially like, for example, the Children's Hospital in Atlanta or different hospitals, different cities. When citizens or constituents are looking up information, I want to provide them the accurate information. So different data sources, different databases, but provide an interactive virtual experience with Watson Assistant that is reliable, that is trusted, but more importantly, resolves their question, right? A lot of people, felt like the Watson Assistant projects, which were stood up in literally in days. The Atlanta one was stood up in less than 2 weeks, for example, because of a lot of the automation and the Watson Assistant capability being a SaaS application, right? Software as a service application, and with the experience that we brought to the table. During COVID, we were very honored to serve several of these, governments and hospitals and healthcare providers with the COVID response application, virtual assistant application. Now, going back further, you mentioned healthcare. We have done several work with Watson Discovery, with sepsis analysis, with prescriptive drug abuse use cases. Several of these involves data science aspects, right? The data ops and the model ops that I mentioned. The data ops is where you collect the data, you catalog the data, the auto catalog capability. The model ops is where you apply Auto AI, you apply Watson Studio, you apply the AI model management and model deployment, right? So that's we were able to do one with Highmark Health, for example, as well as other institutions for different healthcare use cases. Let me also come back to our partnership, right? We worked with Tech Mahindra during some of the early days of Watson. We actually did a manufacturing customer in Europe where we were able to apply Watson Discovery to discover insights from the thousands and thousands of manuals of these appliances in this industrial customer. And Watson Discovery was able to provide what we call as text analytics, the content analytics, but more of the insights discovery platform, so that an expert can look up information from these thousands of different manuals at their fingertips to help their industrial plant management scenarios. That was a joint success that Tech Mahindra and IBM drove at a large manufacturing customer. And I'll be amiss if I don't mention the telco use cases where Watson Assistant, we continue to grow Watson Assistant in a lot of our telecom joint customers. So one of the largest one in the US, a couple in the Europe, and we are doing the foray in Asia Pacific as well. So look, I think the situations where if you take a pretty straightforward use case like customer care with Watson Assistant, we are seeing those use cases, and I mentioned some of those, including the COVID response application, but also the more heavy lifting with Watson Discovery, with data science, with data cataloging, with data integration. One of the customers in UK, we are actually doing a modern data warehouse project together. It's a large bank in UK. So I think if you look at going back to collect, organize, analyze, and infuse, we are working jointly in every step of this ladder, providing outcomes to the customers.
Until Sunil, do me a favor. Let me interject for 2 seconds.
Sure.
Because I want to let our audience in on a little secret. Since this is a fireside chat and not a formal chat, I think that the AI ladder is great. And if you guys see my LinkedIn update and I'm no longer employed by IBM, that means that Rob Thomas has seen this, our senior vice president who created the ladder, has seen this and has asked me to go somewhere else. I'm only kidding. I don't think that will happen. But I think this is what I see in practice. The ladder is a great orientation to understand IBM's approach and a layout of what we do. But here's what I see happening in practice. And you see that Sunil just mentioned it several times. He started with what we call Watson Assistant for customer care. When I think of it, I think of the use case. I think of it as employee care, customer care, basically a way to introduce AI into a conversation with a person who was outside, who would normally speak with a human. So in customer care cases, CVS Aetna is probably one of our largest. Humans are expensive to answer the phone for COVID testing or for vaccinations. And that's typical reason of call right now for them. We're deflecting millions of calls a month from them. Average cost, about $9 per human, less than $2 per customer care call using AI. But here's where it gets interesting. And this is why I'm saying, let's flip the ladder on its head. If we start with Assistant there, and think about your own business, if you're around the fire with us at this chat, if you start with addressing either your employees or your clients with something like customer care, and then you use something that we call Watson Discovery, but Watson Discovery is basically the ability to search out the unstructured data in your environment and tease out information in that. So now you provide context to the way that your AI works. This is very valuable. This brings up your NPS scores, whether internal, external, creates revenue value on its own. But here's the interesting bit. You're also doing something in that. You're creating more data, right? You're creating more oil for yourself. You're using the oil and simultaneously creating it. And what I'm seeing from the clients, or from the customers rather, that I'm working with, that deploy these solutions is then they work their way back down the ladder. They start to use the auto AI capabilities to generate new AI to do things like and use the data that they have in their heritage repositories in combination with the new to create a disruption. How do they do that? Things like next best alternative, next best offer. Because now I have, Senthil who calls in, and my AI knows something about you, knows something about all of my unstructured data, knows something about the structured data, and whether you're an employee or an external customer of mine, now I can understand your disposition. You're giving me the reason that you're calling, and now I can create some new value for you. If you're an employee, and IBM uses this internally, we use this across our 300,000 plus employees with an instantiation that we call Ask HR. And I'm telling you, at this point, as an IBMer, another little secret, I would much rather use Ask HR than I would talk to a live person.
That's awesome.
It gives me contextual answers, and then it makes me an offer to say, would you also like to do this? And
perfect.
I'll say half the time, I'd say, yes, I'd like to do this. How do you know me so well, right? So once you get past a little bit of, that's a little eerie, you get to the point of understanding that taking the AI back, you don't always have to build bottom of the ladder up. We always have that data there.
Sure, that.
You can also take the AI back and create new value.
Perfect.
At any rate,
Perfect.
Sorry for the interjection.
Thanks. No. Thanks for the. Actually, in those terms, right, I just want to share a couple of engagements which Tech Mahindra is also involved. Right, the first one similar to the HR app which you're talking about. This is for a largest oil producer in Middle East. They want us to create an enterprise chatbot for their employees during the COVID time. And we were supposed to extract data from the enterprise documents, support voice recognition, and then accommodating the environment acoustics and language accents too. We were able to do it with Cloud Pak for data. So this is one thing, right, which we were proud of. The another one is we worked with a government agency in a South Asian country. They wanted us to build a data management analytics platform. We used IBM Cloud Pak for data to collect, extract, analyze, infuse AI and all that, right? But this is about their citizens' data. What they did was they were trying to track the effectiveness of the government welfare schemes. And based on what the AI based model gives, they were able to revamp, revise, and improve their schemes for higher effectiveness also. So this product can hit the real pain points on healthcare, oil and gas, like interacting with customers, anything. So we are top of the hour, about 3 minutes. There was a question about AI automated lifecycle. Sunil, probably you may want to take this. What do you mean by automated AI lifecycle is what they want to know? Is it a project scoping, design, and build phase, or can you just share like a minute or so?
The AI, thank you for the question, Kirutik. The AI automated lifecycle, what we mean by that is if you think about the, preparing the data to, if you think normally build, run, manage, right? But if you think about the AI lifecycle, you have to prepare the data, catalog the data, then you have to build your models, right? That's your, data science models and feature engineering. And then you train the models. So you run the models through machine learning, and then you monitor those, right? So if you think about this life cycle of, cataloging the data, building the models, validating the models, training the models with your machine learning, and monitoring to make sure that there is no drift from your AI models and whatnot. That's what we mean by AI lifecycle. You may be thinking traditionally from a project management perspective, but extend this thought process, right, of preparing the data, cataloging the data, build models, run models, and monitor and manage models. You incorporate this in your project plan, right? If you think about CI/CD pipelines, CI/CD projects, and approaches, this fits right into that, right? The AI lifecycle specifically addresses that. So hopefully that addressed that particular question. Senthil, looks like there's another question here. I can read it out. Are there any advancements advancements because of which Cloud Pak for Data eases the ETL activities, pre-processing stuff, and helps form a feature store, leading to a smooth downstream advanced analytics. Great question from Yasser. Look, we talk about metadata management with Watson Knowledge Catalog. This is a groundbreaking technology. If you're familiar with the traditional IBM InfoSphere governance catalog and the information analyzer and the traditional data stage, which you're referring to here with ETL, Watson Knowledge Catalog really advances the whole notion of that, what Thad referred to as auto catalog, right? So think about if you have millions of rows of data, the metadata management itself could be hair, racking, right? Watson Knowledge Catalog automates a lot of that metadata management. So you're precisely right on point when you're asking the question about what are some of the advancements or innovation to help smooth your downstream leverage with analytics. That's exactly what we mean by auto catalog capabilities with Watson Knowledge Catalog.
Sure.
Thad, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think, we've touched on it a couple of times. In many cases, that means the complete removal of ETL, right? That means the ability to take the data at its source and, as you're saying, catalog on ingest, rather than pull that data somewhere else that requires that extract portion of the extract, transform, and load, right? You eliminate some of that, and in doing so, really eliminate some of the heavy lifting that causes projects to fail and collapse under their own weight.
That. So Ted, before we wrap up right now, I want a couple of things talk about the Cloud Pak for Data. Can you talk about the deployment models? In short, probably a minute or so. What once the customer wants to go with this solution, what are the deployment models you have in place?
Yeah, and I like that you put the minute or so because I'm long-winded. It's good. No, I think the net is just this. Anywhere, any cloud, and we mean it, whether it's a private cloud instantiation in a software-defined environment of your choosing, whether it's in a what we call a hyper-converged system environment, which we build and we bring to your environment, kind of like an appliance, but it's modular, or whether that be on an IBM or third-party public cloud infrastructure, we're available there. What you'll see. And what we are, I'm very close with my friends at Microsoft and Amazon. They have an outstanding business, as everyone knows. What you'll see is that we'll bring more of those managed capabilities. There are some already, but our roadmap is to bring those fully managed capabilities to those clouds as well, just like we have in our own IBM cloud.
Thanks, Ted. The last question for Sunil, if you want to take, what are some of the differentiations Cloud Pak for Data brings that justifies the investment, right? The customers are making on this product.
Well, I think the biggest aspect that we can talk about is the modular nature of Cloud Pak for Data. Look, this is built on the containerized platform. This is built on the fact that we can provide ROI for some of these technologies. There was a recent comment made. Our general manager was interacting with our very publicly referenceable customer ING, and they said, well, if you can do 10% of some of these capabilities, you would be saving me $100 million or so over the next 5 years. Now, talk about an ROI, something like that, right? We talk about ROI in the millions of dollars. This customer is giving a straight up validation of $100 million. Look, I think the differentiation comes with the value that we provide and the outcome we deliver in a very crisp, in a very attainable fashion in terms of what customers see value, right? Be it data virtualization capabilities, be it the cataloging capabilities that we mentioned. Automating the AI lifecycle is a very, very differentiating capability that we continue to see customers leverage. And really the Watson AI apps, the Watson Assistant, Watson Discovery, and Cognos Planning Analytics, Open Pages, you name it, right? So these are some of the valuable differentiation that we bring. And more importantly, Senthil, we won jointly multi-million-dollar business. The reason is we support open source holistically. The reason why we won that multi-million-dollar business was because the customer said, I'm using open source, I'm using third party, I'm using a homegrown system. Why do I need IBM Cloud Pak for data? Well, we were able to provide a joint value proposition to talk holistically in terms of enterprise readiness and the governance aspect to help advance the complete life cycle. So I think therein lies the biggest value proposition of embracing open source, but bringing in that enterprise maturity and readiness and governance to deliver data and AI projects very effectively and impactfully.
Awesome, awesome. So one more thing I want to talk to you about is the data science, right? The skill set in data science is like in the market is like really hot right now. It's very rare. How are you coping up with the demands? And to build large solution implementation, you need data science specialists. Like how are you approaching that particular space?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. As someone who recently hired a data scientist to my team, I know how rare that skill set is. I'll go back to what I shared earlier with auto AI, and it really is not hyperbole. I do create AI models myself, and I am a business user who is not anywhere, shape, or form, would never put data scientist on my resume. Probably wouldn't be able to put business analyst on my resume if I'm being really honest. But that's what we're creating. And what we're finding is this, even when you have the data scientists themselves, how many of those data scientists get models into production? The industry average is a very small percentage.
Very low. True.
Very, very low. And why is that? Because the data behind it may or may not be trusted. Model bias is rampant, and it really is, and can cause institutional pain and costs. And quite frankly, models are brittle over time. There's drift, et cetera. So even with the best corpus of data scientists, I'm working with a very, very large insurer right now who has a number, 3 figures of data scientists on staff that are working on certain projects. And they get value from auto AI that they just don't get, and from Cloud Pak for data that they just can't get from the people alone. And it's because we do things like look for bias and drift. We do things like, and that's beyond auto AI. We do things like build the 80-20, the Pareto principle of models so that they can get them into production. And then their data scientists are able to do more of what I would call, to continue the oil analogy, some of the upstream work, some of the higher value work that refines those models, that really puts the stress tests on those models, that kind of only a data scientist can do. So I don't think that there's a magic pill where you create more data scientists, and I don't think that we've created data scientists in a box, but we're pretty darn close, and we've done a lot to augment and enhance those capabilities in the industry.
Perfect. So having said that, right, I can see that's why the ratings in Gartner is going up, or IBM, I believe. So any thoughts on that? Not just in one category, right? Multiple categories. Can you just touch upon, how Gartner has rated you recently? You have the rating has gone up a lot. So.
Yeah, and it's not just Gartner, right? It's all of the analysts. That's something that I think we're really proud of. And as a heritage IBMer, as a 20-year IBMer, I know that IBM, old school IBM, has this motto of talk softly and carry a big stick, meaning we don't brag about those things typically, but this is worth bragging about. And mainly because it goes back to that perception thing of IBM's old. Look at what the analysts are saying about our innovation. We talked about auto AI. That's one of the things that they say is that we can democratize AI and make it available, that we remove bias, we remove drift. These are innovations that you just don't find elsewhere in the industry. I saw Google today announced what they're doing with their AI in beta and making it more conversational, making it available on a wide array of subjects. We've already done that, right? Like we did that 2 years ago. Project Debater was a way where we understood natural language on a variety of topics and could argue that back. We're infusing that into our products that are available to our clients today. not just beta testing something new. And that's not to disparage Google, but that is a little bit of chest pounding to say, we say it, the analysts say it, and our clients are saying it. So yeah, if you haven't checked us out in an analyst report lately, check out IBM. You might be surprised where we sit. And top right is where we're more and more going, top right of those quadrants.
And moving fast too. Thanks, Dad. So one more question for you, right? IBM is building an ecosystem across, investing billions of dollars. Like, how does this ecosystem play into the IBM data and AI business and the go-to-market strategy also, since you handle that particular area? Can you talk a little bit about that? Where the investments
absolutely. I think this, again, it goes back to something that I hinted at the beginning. And since we're among friends and we're around the fire and it's a fireside chat, I'll say this. The data landscape is important. But there's something that I think every vendor is realizing, and this will speak to the question about where we're putting our investments. We have a very robust data business, very heritage data business in DB2 and Informix. And you would think, oh, those are old. They're very old. I mean, DB2 is 40 years old. It's an older technology. We invest in it. It's got great tech, but it doesn't. If I wanted to build a new app today, and I know we have some students on the phone, they're probably not turning to DB2 to do their first build. Maybe they're building with Mongo, maybe they're building with PostgreSQL, all of which we partner with. But what we realize is that the data landscape should not be containerized into one or two databases as the de facto standard, because there are many uses. So as Sunil said, we embrace open. Now, think about that. Now that I've said that the data landscape is somewhat commoditized and should be fit for purpose, and we believe that too, where are we putting our investment? We're putting our investment in all of the things that are upstream. So when you think about, and I hate the term platform because it's so overused, but when you think about once you containerize and you have access to all data, and then you put those multi-billion-dollar investments into making the use and refinement of that data, the creation of your plastic goods, all of your petroleum-based products, et cetera, to use our oil analogy, we're putting our emphasis and our might and muscle, our heritage, our patents, our deep research, all of that into making the context of that data more relevant to the business user, making it secure, making it automated. You can see that through all the autos, and making it relevant and quickly relevant for business. That's where we're putting all of our emphasis and all of our efforts. So are we, did that just signal that IBM's abandoning the data business? No way, right? Like, I mean, we've got data on the mainframe, we've got data in DB2, we've got data in Informix that powers and will continue to power, the largest financial institutions, the largest industrial institutions on the globe. We would crater the market if we said we were removing that, because they're critical systems run on that. But what we are saying is we look to embrace all data, and in doing we want to provide that value on top. That's where we're making the investments. What you'll see in go-to-market is you see more of us leaning into our AI capabilities, and then the auto capabilities will be more part of our go-to-market moving forward, because that's where you translate that into value for our customers.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. There's one more question. Is there any limitations with respect to implementing Cloud Pak for data on-prem versus cloud for the features and functionality standpoint? Sunil, you or
I'll quickly answer, and I promise I'll be quick. There's no when you implement on cloud, if it's a non-managed service, no limitations. If you implement on a system, no limitations. There is an inverse limitation in our Netezza performance server warehouse. Right now, we sell that as a system only because we find that the price to performance ratio, we can fine tune that the best. So that's one area. And then on our managed services, you'll see that we introduced things like data virtualization as a service, MDM as a service, all of these announcements that Netezza performance server as a service, all managed. Those are building, and those are building fast. When we announced Cloud Pak for data as a service last year, we specifically put that asterisk there to say some of these capabilities aren't managed. That window's closing really rapidly. I think by Q4 this year, we're going to have 95% parity between the on-prem, software-defined and cloud managed.
Yeah, Thad, just to add, the question also had some comment about data science modules. So there is really no difference between what you have on cloud with what you have on prem. So in fact, that's one of the advantages, right? A lot of times when data sensitivity issues arise, data privacy issues arise, data can't leave my premises or my boundary, you can do it on prem. And the best part is the same models, the same data science investments, you can move it to cloud with absolutely zero change or zero impact. So there's really no difference between the data science modules on-prem versus
not on the data side at all. That's right. That's cloud first. In fact, I mean that's an important point. Our development going forward, we talk about where we're putting the multi-billions, cloud first, as a service first. You'll see all of the new innovation come out in the containerized versions, ready for cloud first. That's a paradigm shift for us over the last 18 months.
It depends on the customers, what they where they are in the journey to take the assets to cloud also. So that's perfect. So from my experience at least, right, what excites the customer about IBM Cloud Pak, right? It's a solid offerings, strong architecture and features. They know that they are getting the right things in place, starter kits, and scale easy as well, irrespective of whether it's on-prem or cloud. The second is transparency in pricing. That's also one thing. The customers going in, they know what they are getting. And the third is the industry accelerators. There are so many accelerators related to manufacturing analytics, customer segmentation, customer iteration prediction, healthcare location services and optimization, and all that. So a perfect way to end this conversation. I can't thank both of you enough. And there you go, folks. Data is oil, right? Let's stay apart with that thought. I had a great time talking to people here. Dad, you have anything to add?
No, just again, I'll end as I started. Thank you guys very much. I love the partnership with Tech Mahindra. Speaking of those accelerators, we need to get some of yours on Cloud Pak for Data and make them. I'll be shameless and plug that. But no, really enjoyed the time together. It's a great fireside chat. Hopefully one day soon we'll be doing that in person. But Senthil, thank you so much. Just really appreciate it.
And not but last, I want to thank Swati and Garima for my Tech Mahindra Alliance and marketing team to put this together. And our supporter, Sunil, do you have any parting words?
Well, again, thank you for your time and appreciate the partnership. Good luck with all the projects work and our joint collaboration.
Thanks. I love the conversation. For our audience, please connect with us, share your experience on social media. The hashtag is UnlockTheNext now, and feel free to reach out to us through email as well. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Senthil. Thanks, Sunil and Thad.
Bye.